So yeah, I'm Antoine Compa. Thank you for hosting me. And I'm a data scientist. I'm going to talk about the Naval Group's experience with Confiance.ai. So let's go to the next slide if I can. I think I can't move on. So if you can switch to the next slide, Nicola, it will be super nice. Yeah, so this is a little reminder. You can switch to the next one. So yeah, what was our main issue? Can you switch to the next? Yes, thank you. Our main issue was to know how to classify vibratory time series in a cluttered environment with as few sensors as possible. If you have to imagine something, you have to imagine a boat. A boat is full of machineries, and some of them are monitored through vibratory time series. You can think about a shaft. Shaft vibrates, and if it vibrates too much, it can mean that something is wrong with it. That's the first thing. And the second thing was, how can this be accepted by customers and regulators? And to do that, we had a process. We had the process given by Confiance.ai. On the right hand, you can see something you've already seen a little bit earlier this afternoon, which is a W cycle. And what we had to do, you can see, we had to pass through all the green boxes on the W cycle. We managed to do most of them, not all of them, because it's still an ongoing process, and I'm going to talk about each of them. You can switch to the next slide, next click. Thank you. So, what did we add as data to test this method? We had time series. That's what I say. Time series of vibratory time of vibrations. We had 3 million points per file at 3 rotation speeds, 10 Hertz, 15 Hertz, 30 Hertz, on 5 possible states. So it was a classification issue. It was anomaly detection and mostly classification. Each time series is annotated according to one of 5 possible cases. The first one, when it's faultless, when nothing happened. The second one is when it's unbalanced. Then when you have an unbalanced, that means when you have like part of the shaft who has like something on the side and not on the other. So it can be unbalanced and it can damage the shaft. Then you can have a problem with the rotor. The rotor, yes, another one with a ball bearing defect. You know, when you have something that rolls and rolls and rolls, it can be helped by little balls, which are the balls and which can be broken and have create a ball bearing defect. That's what we wanted to classify. And the last thing we wanted to classify was the problem of edging. In all cases, we consider the entire time series to be representative of the case. So either, can you stay on the last slide, please, Nicola? Yeah, the one before. Yes. So one time series was representative of one state. So if you have you have a ball bearing defect, the whole time series is representative of the ball bearing defect. Yes, you can switch to the next one. Yeah, so what were our clients? We had 2 main clients. The first one was a sailor. You can think about sailors as young lads who want to have a live image of the basic vibratory state. With 3 main colors. Green, everything is okay. Yellow, you got something that isn't wrong. And red, the system is broken. So that's what they wanted from us. An AI that was able to be on a little ESP32, which is a microcontroller you can see here. And this thing was to be deployed at sea. It was to be a system that was able to classify new series in less than a second. That was our first client. Our second client was a Naval Group maintainer. They wanted to analyze data that was disembarked, that was on land. And the problem with them is that they are very busy. And they are really understaffed. They are lacking people to do the job. So they want to have a very pretty sharp and quick analysis of the time series. Something we really have to take into account was the upcoming AI Act. Why? Because in the Article 4, that's what you can see up there. Article 4 asks us to give sufficient level of training for AI users and to give a human supervision when it's when you have dangerous use cases like ours can be. So on land, the Naval Group maintainer wanted to have this system which classifies in 5 categories. And with a few more KPIs, he wanted to have time to failure, a degree of belonging to a class and its criticality, and then the cost of repair operation. That's the first thing. That's the first green box that you can just remind from the W cycle. You can switch to the next slide. Thanks. So what does the methodology ask us? The methodology asks us first to define what is the intended purpose, what we are doing here, what is the purpose of our AI system. Second, what attributes does the user want us to trust? What are the trustworthy attributes? That's really important because it helps you to know what will be your confidence KPIs, what will be the confidence APIs that Confiance.ai gives you. And last, in which operating design domains, the famous ODD, does your system evolve? Why is it really important? Because it influences your model. If you know in which domain, operational domain, your AI system evolves, then you know in which domain it does not evolve. You can be very clear with your client saying, yes, my AI system is good in this operational domain, but it can't handle this other operational domain. If I can give you a quick example, you can see it on the bottom right corner. Let's think about a few factors. If you are at sea, you can have different factors that can differ your time series. I can think about sea state. If the sea is a bit too roughy, or the temperature. If the temperature is too high, as it is for the pressure. If the pressure is too high. All of these factors can influence your time series, and you have to design your operational design domain in order to know in which temperature condition you can evolve with this. That's the thing with the bottom right corner. Then on the bottom left corner, in order to create your ODD, you have to speak with all of your partners, not only the end users, but also the system engineer, the human factor specialists, and the data scientists, in order to create the intended purpose, the trust attributes, and the ODD. Thank you, Nicolas. If you can switch to the next slide. Okay, you have another thing that you have to think about. You have to think about governance and data quality. That is what the AI Act asks you. You have to provide a detailed summary of the data used for training, and how to obtain clean and safe data. Our case is an acquisition of 3 million points per record with subsampling, cleaning, and transformation. With that, then you have to specify the data you are able to deal with. You have to specify the data, its acquisition, the strategy to cover the ODD, the verification of the data, the comparison with the selected metrics, the deployment of the acquisition methods, and an ongoing verification of data quality. That's a lot of work. You also have to check for statistical biases. So you really know with the AI Act, but in any case, if you want to be very serious with your product, you have to have a very genuine data EVQ strategy. And how can you do that? With Confiance.ai, we are about to do this with a DQM library, DQMs that Fawzi was in charge of lately. So in the right-hand corner, I took a screenshot of his paper. I didn't use all of the library, but I used part of it to test it for my use case. In the DKM library, it's a component developed by Confiance.ai, and it was able for me to find the domain gap between my data, the data I acquired on my own. You can switch to the next slide, Nicolas. So that was it for the data quality cases. Another case that you have to deal with, it's given in the Article 86 of the AI Act, is the exactitude and the explainability of your methods, and how to deal with that. How did I deal with it? I dealt with it with the Punk library that you heard about a few minutes earlier. The Punk library provides predictions with a measure of confidence with an uncertainty quantification. You have a method which produces intervals or sets of statistically valid predictions and the minimal assumptions. The theorem is that on average, our prediction sets will not miss the ground truth more than 10% of the time. If you want to have a pretty very concrete example, on the bottom right-hand corner, you have you have a frequency picture of my time series between Hertz 0 to 80 Hertz. And I had a classification. If you can see the classification, the first classification, the last black line, you can see that the value is so let's say the unbalance issue is classified with 47%. But without Punk, I wouldn't have been able to see that the classification of the delineage, which means that my shaft isn't aligned anymore, is just left a bit behind. It's 38%. So with Punk, I was able to give my the uncertainty of my model. You can switch to the next slide. Okay, another use case that you have to, another method that you have to deal with thanks to the AI Act is how to explain how my method works. With KI libraries that was developed with Confiance, KI library enables us to compare all explicability methods. For instance, on the right-hand side, you have time series, and with KI, you are able to compare the explanations of different explanatory methods in order to do an audit of your method. If two methods contradicts, that means that you may have a problem with your model. On the top, you have the HSIC output for two time series, and on the bottom you have the rise output. And you can see that even if they are kind of they do agree a bit on some part of the frequencies that was responsible for the classification. These two time series were responsible for an unalignment of the shaft. You can see on the 2 seconds that they do contradict, the two explanatory methods contradict each other in this with this time series. So in these two examples on the left and right, two explicability methods give different results from each other and from sample to sample. So this is a strong indicator of the possibility of a design flaw, like a poor model choice. You can switch to the next slide, Nicolas. Okay, so now that you have created your methods, that you are able to explain how it works, that you are able and responsible for your data workflow, you have to deploy your methods. So how did we did that? We created an environment thanks to the Confiance.ai stack. How did it work? On the left-hand corner, we have a local dev environment, and the main thing was on the middle bunch. On the middle bunch, you can see on the top that we had first had our data engineer workflow, which is one of the first and foremost workflow to do. First, the raw data acquisition, then the data augmentation, data cleaning as well, then TATKI TIAD. That was for the data engineering. For the training of the pipeline, we deployed our models with Jupyter and Airflow on the stack of the Confiance stack. One of the most important things was on the right. On the right, you can see that you had the model evaluation. The model evaluation stored in Jupyter Notebook with Airflow, KAA method, and Punk. All of these metrics were stored in a Mina.io and were able to be queried, if you can see on the right-hand side, on the end users for administrators. On OpenSearch, we were able to do to create, let's say, metrics. How you call that? Metrics board for the administrator. So he or she will be able to know how much uncertainty you had the model, how much was it self-explainable or not, how much did it contradict on the different explanatory methods. That was for the regulator mostly, and for the client in order to know if the credit was good. On the top of this dashboard, you can see that we had the proper dashboard for the interaction with the users, with the interaction with the model. And then we had a monitoring for the DevOps users. Why do we have to do that? Because according to the AI Act, we need to have human continuous human surveillance. You can switch to the next slide. Okay, so this is my last slide. I will be able for a few questions later on. I think I have saved enough time. So what did we had? We may have had an accident with our AI system. Why? Because the system is high risk. Come on, we have shafts. So we have shafts that are used to produce energy for boats to go at sea. So the system is high risk. If it broke, then we have our lads, we have or sailors in the middle of nowhere in the sea. So this system is high risk. And according to the AI Act, we are an AI distributor. So we have strong level of requirements to comply with. So thanks to Confiance.ai, and with the time I was given to develop this use case, I was able to implement the following part of the following requirements. The risk management systems, which we talked about in the beginning, the data governance. I wasn't able to deal with the technical documentation, even if the technical documentation is asked by the AI Act. I think it's with the Article 10 or no 13, Article 13. I had some action logging. We can see this with the dashboard. I had the transparency requirement, which I was able to comply with. Human supervision, accuracy, robustness, thanks to Punk. Quality management system. I didn't dealt with accessibility, declaration of conformity, registration is the European register because it's not ready yet. And as I wasn't asked with, I didn't incorporate it yet with regulatory authorities, but that's something I will absolutely do if I was asked to. I'm done with the presentation and I'm ready to answer to any of your questions.